What's up, everybody? Matty T back, T off sports. How you doing today? Alrighty, listen, today I want to talk to you guys about, we're going to switch it up. We've been doing a lot of talk about football. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about what is one of my favorite sports, tennis. I love tennis. If you watched my last video, I sort of threw you a prelude to this one at the end of it and talk to you a little bit about why I love the sport of tennis so much. Well, it is, I think today is what? Today's Wednesday, which means, I don't know, in about, well, they're going to be kicking off the Australian Open here about 7, which is 11 in Australia. So it's technically going on Thursday, if not Thursday already. Sorry, don't feel like doing the math right now. But anyway, we're talking Thursday in Australia, so which it would be about day 4. And so heading into day 4 of the Australian Open, I want to talk about two people. I can talk all day about tennis. Those of you who know me know that. Apologize for the camera shake here. This vehicle is mounted to, this video is mounted, camera's mounted to my dashboard here. And of course, it's winter time, and you guys, if you drive, you live in the States, you know how the roads are in the winter. They're not good. So anyway, getting back to the point here, I can spend all day talking about tennis. I'm going to talk about two players really quick here, Rafa Nadal and Serena Williams. And so we got your full coverage there. We got a men's player and we got a women's player. First, Rafa Nadal. So if you follow tennis, you know that Rafa Nadal is pretty much, just real quick history, Rafa is the man who kind of took away the mystique of Roger Federer. You know, back in the day, Roger Federer was smashing everybody he played, destroying them. And along comes this little 18-year-old Spaniard with the fight of a bull. I like to call him the bullfighter. That's how I know him. He's Rafa. He's my man. He's one of my favorite players on the tour. Not my all-time favorite player. I'm gonna give away my age a little bit if I tell you my all-time. Well, you know what? Heck with it. My all-time favorite player is John McEnroe. Everybody knows me knows that. Some have even said I throw a McEnroe tantrum or two when I'm on the court. I don't know, maybe not. But anyway, back to Rafa Nadal. Nadal is my man. Nobody fights harder than Nadal for a point. But anyway, Nadal, 11-time Grand Slam champion. And listen, he fell off in the first round. He fell off in the first round of the Australian Open. Listen, I'm glad I'm not a betting man, because if I were, I would have lost my money on that. I had Rafa getting to the quarterfinal at least. But you know what? Yeah, everybody's talking. All the talk, hey, is Rafa done? No, Rafael Nadal is nowhere near done. Have you seen this man play? Rafael Nadal can still cover the court better than 95% of the guys on the tour right now. The guy's an animal. He's a beast. Yes, you heard it. I even said it back in the day. Rafael Nadal's style would not lend to a long career in tennis. I said it. And that's simply because if you watch him play, he pounds the court, running down everything. He chases everything down. But you know what? He's a little bit older. Does his age have anything to do with him losing in the first round? Does his age have anything to do with him being dominated last season by the world number one, current world number one, Novak Djokovic? I'm going to say no. I am going to say no. Here's the thing. Players are playing longer now. The way that players train now, the nutrition, the teams they build to keep them healthy for a long time. There's a lot of money in sports, and if you're a professional athlete, it is advantageous for you to play as long as possible. So I'm going to say that the bar has raised at least 5 years for tennis players. The shelf life has gone up about 5 years for tennis players if they have no major injuries in their early years. And Rafael Nadal, his age has nothing to do with it. Okay, so let's take that out of the picture. Rafael Nadal has one major issue. Now, you might say, Matt, you're not a pro coach. Well, you know what? I got eyes. 1, 2, I'm a player, and 3, you know, I do a little bit of coaching. I work with kids and beginning adults, the adults who have not played tennis ever and they're trying to learn the sport. I work with people like that. I don't work with the advanced group. because I don't consider myself an advanced player. I'm pretty good, but I'm nowhere near. Anyway, enough about me. You might say, Matt, you know what? You are not a pro coach. How can you throw all of that out? Let's just talk about what you can see if you watch the game of tennis from an analytical perspective. Now, you guys have watched all my other videos. You know, they're fanboys in sports, fangirls, and then there are the analysts who like to look at the finite things, the idiosyncrasies of different games, different athletes, different points in different contests, and break them down. They like to say, hey, was this the turning point in that game? Was this the turning point in that match? Those are the types of people, that's the type of guy I am. Those are the types of fans that I like to have sports conversations with, because you know, they can put away their loyalty. Hey, this is my guy, this is my team. They can put that aside to break down the game. The game is bigger than every player in it. I don't care what the sport is. The game is bigger. The game was there before that player. The game will go on after that player's done. So let's deal with analytics first when we're talking sports, and then let's get into the more true fan-centric conversation. But analytics first. Now, so analytically speaking, based on my observations, the thing that is affecting Rafa Nadal right now in his career is that he has played his whole life a style of tennis where he hits these big loopy shots. He loops these big tops. Actually, that's not what it looks like. It's more like this, you know. He's going around his head. He whips these big forehands, and they put a lot of loop in the ball. But what has happened is these players have caught up with him, and they have said, you know what? They have learned that if they wait for that ball to come down, A, or B, catch it early, they can actually handle all that loopy topspin. That's my observation. Now, I will tell you that I've had several coaches that I've worked with that have told me, hey, Matt, you know what? That's great that you hit all that topspin. I want a little bit more drive on that ball, because the good players are going to sit up, and different players have different abilities. Some players can actually strike the ball well from above their shoulders. Most can't, because that's a difficult shot for anybody. And you can't reliably place the ball where you want to when you're hitting it above your shoulders. So, and I apologize to those of you who don't play the sport. I'm getting a little bit into, you know, the mechanics of it a little bit. I would hope that you would learn to watch tennis and appreciate it, because again, as I said in my other video, tennis is combat without striking the other person. One of the greatest things I love about it. You can have the same effect on an opponent, a tennis opponent, as you can a boxer in some respects. But anyway, get back to the point. These coaches have told me, hey, Matt, you know what? That's great that you got that topspin. The better players are going to be able to attack it if it's not penetrated, the shot's not penetrating through the court. And so I've worked to flatten my shots out a little bit, and not just flatten them, but drive them. Topspin's okay if it's coming at you this way. If it's sitting up and a player is waiting for it to come down, then it's not going to intimidate them that much. So what's happening is, Rafa Nadal, when he plays these guys that are patient and decide they want to play baseline tennis, then they just sit back and they wait and they say, okay, I'm just going to wait. He's not attacking. He's not approaching. I can wait on it and drive and do what I want to do with it. So that's what happened. Fernando Verdasco hit an incredible amount of winners. He almost looked like he just practiced smacking that ball. When I say that ball, I'm talking about the type of shot that Nadal hits. So let me get on, because this video's running a little long and I spent way more time on Nadal than I probably should have. Let me get right to the point. Rafael Nadal is not done. In my opinion, and again, I'm not a pro coach, but in my opinion, and speaking of the coaching thing, you're hearing a lot of rumbling now around the tour, different sports analysts and tennis analysts saying, hey, Nadal needs to dump his coach. He maybe needs to look at working with another coach. No, he doesn't need to work with another coach. Uncle Tony is fine for him. Uncle Tony, if you're watching this is what they need to just adjust the strategy just a little bit. Nadal doesn't need another coach per se. He just needs a slight tweak. Here's where he wants those tweaks to occur. One, I think personally he needs to switch to a racket with maybe an 18 by 20 string pattern. The 16 by 19 is good. It's a little bit more open. It grabs the ball. It allows him to hit all that topspin. You know what? It's time for him to hit with a little bit more penetration. Okay, guys who hit with a lot of topspin like me, you don't actually need that much help from the racket. You can go with one with a tighter string bed, okay? So I like the tighter string bed for guys that have maybe too much topspin, because it takes some of that out of it and it replaces that loop with penetration. So that's one. The other benefit is I found that a slice off an 18 by 20 string pattern tends to skip and skid a little bit lower than the more open string patterns. Yeah, you get a little bit more bite from that open string pattern, but if you get your tension right with an 18 by 20, it's golden. So I think Nadal needs to switch his equipment up to maybe an 18 by 20 string pattern. And if he's not going to do that, then perhaps he needs to go with something that's a little bit heavier, because when you're playing with a lightweight racket, that mass translates from, the energy that you initiate that goes into the shot when you wind up and release into it. The more mass you got in that racket, the heavier that shot's going to be. I don't think you'll get an argument from anybody on that. That's physics, okay? The more mass you got in that racket, the heavier that shot's going to be. So I think Nadal needs to get switched to maybe a heavier frame and a frame that has a tighter string pattern. Does he need to, maybe he needs to go down from 100 to a 98. What Nadal is lacking right now is penetration. He's got the fight, but the topspin guys are sitting up and waiting on that now. Nadal, if you can find a way to get that ball to move through the court more and to land deeper, your shots for the majority of your career, and you can go back and watch your own film, your balls bounce near the center line, the service line, and if that ball's bouncing up high but it's bouncing near the service line, simple math is back up, let it come down, or catch it early. That ball going up this way versus going out that way, a ball out that way is going to always be a more difficult shot to most players than a ball that bounces and goes up. So that's all on Nadal. Nadal's not done. Nadal needs to make a slight tweak with his equipment, and I think if he just changes the equipment, he can keep playing the same way. If he changes the equipment, he'll get a little bit more drive out of that ball, a little bit more court penetration. Okay, that's all he needs to do. So I'm done with Nadal. All of you guys that think Rafael Nadal is done, throw it out. He's not done. Rafael Nadal is still one of the baddest players out there. It's just that the rest of the field has sort of learned that, hey, you know what? That loopy topspin, they're not afraid of it. Now, you contrast him with a Novak Djokovic. Djokovic can give it to you however he wants. He can loop it with you. He can drive it on you. He can slice it on you. Novak plays with an 18 by 20 string pattern. You do the math. I'm just saying, man, I know a little something about this. Anybody who knows me knows. They laugh at me because they say, hey, Matt, how many rackets did you bring in your suitcase this year? Or how many rackets did you bring in your, they call my tennis bag a suitcase, because I'm known for bringing a lot of rackets to the court, and they laugh because I switch. Nobody knows equipment as well as I do. Okay, and you know what, I just heard myself. That kind of sounded like Donald Trump a little bit. Nobody knows business better than I do. Okay, hey, look, I like Donald Trump. I'm not gonna get into politics. I just heard myself for a minute there. Nobody knows rackets as much as I do. Okay, all right, I'm done laughing with that. All right, real quick, because I'm almost out of time here, but Serena Williams, it goes without saying. Look at the ladies players that went out in the first round. We saw some top tier players go out in the early rounds of the Australian Open. Serena's still there. Serena, let me tell you something. Serena she has hit a gear in her tennis playing career that most have lost. They peaked maybe 10 years ago and they're on the downside. Serena is still playing some of the best tennis she's ever played. Okay, I have not seen the drop off in her game. Some people want to talk about Serena, say she's this, she's that. I think the thing that keeps Serena tough is, one, she's still a great player, and two, she's still hungry. Serena wants to win everything. If you're hungry, and you match that up with skill, you're gonna win. If you got the skill and you're hungry, you are gonna win. If you got the skill but you're not hungry, a player who's hungry is gonna come behind and beat you. Okay? But if you have the desire coupled with the skill, who can stop you? So the only person out there that can beat Serena is her head. That's it. Serena has an alter ego that she sometimes battles against, but that's it. And if you're the player on the other side of the net, and you're fortunate to catch her on one of those days where she's battling her alter ego, you still have to bring your A game. You still have to bring your A game and hope that she doesn't wake up. Okay, Serena's the baddest. I said it on a blog on my website, www.mdtalford.com. I said it in a blog. Serena could be the greatest pro athlete of our time with the way that she dominates her sport. Not across the board. I would not dare insult any other athletes out there that work hard at their respective sports. I'm just saying that Serena could be the greatest athlete for her sport in her particular field genre that I've ever seen. She could be. Just by the way she dominates. Just by the way she dominates. Okay. So that said, Serena, look, I know what a lot of these sports journalists, and they know who they are, and I'm not calling anybody out, but these sports journalists that rather than talk about her success, when they're interviewing her, especially as she starts to win these tournaments, you look at what happened last year, rather than them asking Serena about the match in front of her at the US Open, they kept on. They did it at Wimbledon. They kept on. Hey, Serena. Hey, Serena Slam. Hey, Steffi Graf. Hey, calendar year slam. Don't talk to me about these things that are different. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on, listen, if I'm in this field of 128, I've got 7 matches I've got to win. I have to win 7 matches to win the championship. I'm only focused on the player in front of me for that particular round. Maybe the player, if I just won, maybe the player that's coming up next. But that's it. And even less so on that player. I'm more focused on, hey, am I doing everything I need to do? Am I getting enough rest? Am I getting my proper nutrition? Am I recovering my body the way I need to with supplements and massage, heat therapy, ice therapy, whatever's necessary to get me in the best possible shape to play that next match? That's what I'm focused on. Okay. So for those that are in the sports community, sports journalism that have access to Serena, I would challenge you to resist the temptation to get sucked into this. And not that you're doing it intentionally, but getting sucked into this whole thing of psyching out don't psych the player out. Serena is chasing history right now, but the thing I like about her is she's not chasing history. Serena's just trying to beat that player that's in front of her. So please step aside and let her do that this year. And I know it sounds like I'm stumping for Serena Williams and I'm getting away from the analytics, but Serena, I simply don't have another player I can compare her to right now. You talk about, 10 years or so ago, the only players that gave her trouble around that time were the Belgians, and particularly Justine Henin-Hardenne, who in my opinion would have been the Rafa Nadal of clay had she continued to play. She was a master on clay. That was Serena's toughest opponent on the soft court, and she was actually pretty tough on the hard court. So, speaking of analytics, if you saw something here in her last match against the girl from Taipei, I forget her name, Serena did a lot of slicing. This is how I can tell an athlete, she's working on her game. Serena fell victim last year in that to Roberta Vinci in that US Open semifinal. That slice seemed to annoy her. And any tennis player knows, especially those of us that play with one-handed backhands, we know that the best way to counter a slice is with a slice. You hit me a slice, I'm going to give you another slice back, especially if your slice is really good, because the slice is the best shot to get underneath a low ball. It's extremely difficult to drive a low ball flat or with topspin. You almost have to slice it. Serena got frustrated by the slice last year, and I can tell that she's been working on it. Just in this tournament alone, her slice looks better to me than it did last year. So Serena is not a one-handed backhand player; she's a two-handed backhand player. So, listen, I've gone longer than I wanted to, folks. I love tennis. You can tell that I'm very passionate about it. So I'm going to wrap this up. I hope I gave justice to what I feel like are the things that are holding Rafa Nadal back, and the things that I think. Look, if you're asking me for a quick prediction, I think that Novak Djokovic is going to win the Australian Open. I felt that from day one. I just don't think that anybody out there can shake his confidence. At that level, it's not about who's the better player. It's about the player who's more confident in his ability and his physical. Because at that level, these guys can hit the ball and keep it in play 100 shots. The thing is, it's almost a game of chicken. Who can hang in there the longest before going for that risky shot? Djokovic right now, he'll play for hours with anybody out there. So I don't see anybody beating Djokovic in this Australian Open. On the women's side, I don't see anybody beating Serena Williams. I just don't. That's it. Those are my picks for the Australian Open. I'm gonna come back and talk to you in another video about the French. But listen, Rafa Nadal is not done. And let me tell you one last thing on Rafa Nadal, and I sort of alluded to this a little bit on my blog. I think Rafa Nadal losing in the first round of the Australian Open was a blessing in disguise. Here's why. It will allow him not to further pound his body in that hard court. That heat, that Australian heat is hot. That Australian Open court, those courts are hot. They're very hot. They're hotter than the US Open. So that heat and that pounding can wear you down. Nadal got a gift. What I would say to him is use it. Use that gift, and you got time now. The Australian Open is 2 weeks. Take 2 weeks. Take these 2 weeks. Pretend you're still playing, but go and look at some other equipment, man. That just maybe a racket that's maybe, you know, a third to a half ounce heavier, and with a tighter string pattern, and you know, maybe even experiment with going down to a 98 from a 100, and see what kind of results you get with your ball striking. That's it. Nadal is going to be fine, and I still think that Nadal, if he makes a few tweaks, I still think that he will win the French Open this year. I think he needs those tweaks though. So anyway, I'm done, folks. I apologize. I thank you for those of you that stuck in there with me. I know this has been a lengthy video. Once again, I always appreciate you guys for watching. If you got any questions for me, anything, you know I'm an author, so if you read my book or you read a blurb on it, you got questions, hit me up offline. That is a passion. That's something I'm very passionate about. I don't like to talk about it too much because it's very personal for me. But I invite you to read that book. I think the subject matter is something that touches everybody. So you get a chance to read it. You got questions. You want to read a blurb. You want to read a free preview. You can download a preview from my website. It's in the description field. And that's about all I got today, folks. I appreciate you tuning in. I love you guys. And listen, it's cold out there depending on what part of the country you're in. Bundle up and you know, keep warm, be safe, and tell somebody you love them and mean it. Thank you. Matty out.